Well, Peter Mathews is a professor of politics at Cyprus College in the United States, and he's joining us now live. Peter Mathews, good to speak to you as always. So where does this go from here? We're now finding out that Mr. Trump knew all along that Mike Flynn had had contact with the Russians and that many of his staff had been in contact with the Russians all through the campaign. Can he survive this?
It's very difficult to say at this point, but it is pretty controversial, and it goes back to the Logan Act, which prohibits private citizens from negotiating foreign policy with another country, and that's what Mr. General Flynn's being accused of, having negotiated foreign policy in that conversation to some extent with the Russian ambassador. However, the Logan Act has never been used to prosecute anyone in the United States in the 218 years it's been in place because it may be unconstitutional. So I doubt he will be prosecuted under the Logan Act, but he did, in fact, perhaps during an investigation, he denied certain things. He said, I didn't talk about the sanctions, which he actually probably did talk about it. So that could be a problem for him there if he lied under an investigation or to investigators about it. That's the only possibility that could bring him down. And then the question is, what did President Trump know, and when did he know it about all of this? Did he know any of this was going on for the 2 weeks or even earlier than that, even earlier in the election campaign?
Well, the suggestions are this morning. Absolutely. The suggestions are this morning, Peter, that many in the Trump administration, Trump team, were in contact with the Russians all the way through the campaign. I mean, if you remember, one of his old advisors, Manafort, had to stand down because of his connections with the Russians. So it does seem as if, despite all their denials and all their what seem now like lies, they were in touch with the Russians throughout.
That's a very tough point. I mean, actually, that could be a vulnerable point for them. But on the other hand, the question has to be asked is, what do they do with the Russians? And what kind of deals do they make? Do they do anything to influence the election or to take support from a foreign government for the election? The other question is about the hacking of the emails of the DNC. There's been claims by all the intelligence services that the DNC was hacked, so was Hillary Clinton's campaign chairman. The question is, then they couldn't provide any physical evidence of that because of the vulnerability of security. We don't want to give away the answers to how they got it. That's a problem because many of the public wants to see the actual evidence that the Russians actually hacked the emails, and the DNC headquarters, rather. And the other question is, what kind of deals did these campaign people for Trump make with any Russians that they met, intelligence agencies or not? Don't forget, intelligence agents quite often are disguised in Russia. No one knows that they're intelligence agents. They come up to you, they pretend to be business people, they're at a cocktail with you. So it's very difficult to say what kind of accusation one should make of the Trump campaigners who went to Russia and met with these people, including intelligence agents themselves. What kind of deal was reached? That has to be proven.
And if it comes out categorically, Peter, that Trump employees had connections with the Russians during the campaign and those same Russians were involved somehow in swinging the election to Mr. Trump, where does that leave him as a president?
Very vulnerable to possible charges of collusion with a foreign power or his people colluding. The other thing is, what kind of help do they get from the Russian government or the Russian agents in the election? Was it direct contributions of money? Well, that would be illegal. It's against federal law for a foreign country to contribute to political campaigns in the United States. But if they helped in some other ways, by putting out propaganda or what have you, that's technically not illegal. So it'll be very interesting. But politically speaking, it would be a very bad situation for President Trump if this comes out to be a real connection. And I think there's going to be some investigations on this, because both Republicans and Democrats want to investigate this further from the Congress and possibly an independent counsel investigating it as well.
Well, finally then, just on that point, Peter Mathews, where does this go from here? What are the next steps taken by Democrats to try and keep the pressure on Mr. Trump and by the Trump administration to try and lessen it and move on with business?
Democrats want to have independent counsel investigated, which would mean taking the power of investigation out of the hands of the Republican chairpersons of the committees in Congress. Republicans want to keep it in the hands of Congress itself because they control the Congress and they can control the investigation, and they can decide how hard to be on Trump's people or not to be on them. So it's a very interesting and very dicey situation that cannot be predicted right now, and I would rather wait for a few more days to make any kind of prediction on this.
Absolutely. Okay, Peter Mathews, we'll come back to you in a couple of days. Thank you.